Hello, and welcome officially to 29 days of little shifts that have a huge impact. I'm Robin Sachs, and I'm a speaker, author, and coach who helps people, simply put, get out of their own way. Throughout this month of April, I'm going to share with you some tools, some tricks, some shifts in thinking and perspective that can help you do exactly that. We'll talk about topics including motivation, confidence, self-talk, stress management. You know, all those things nobody ever really teaches us much about, but that we have to deal with and are often struggling with day to day in our everyday lives. Yeah. So here's what you need to know. Those things are all just skill sets. And like any other skill set, they can be learned. My goal is to get you these tools and tips in a way that's easy to understand and easy to apply so that you can literally click this video off, walk out the door, and start using them immediately. Not only that, but you'll be able to not only see the results, but feel them as well. So let's start by leveling up a little bit. Let's start with the foundational piece of everything. Personal development, professional development, confidence, taking control of my stress levels, all of those things start with one common foundational component. And that component, using my high-tech, incredibly advanced visual aid, is mindset. Mindset is 80% of the game. 80% of the game. So what does that mean? Here's what it means. When we want to learn or succeed or advance or level up, what we often think about is information. The more information and knowledge I can get about something, the better off I am, right? The more prepared with information I am, the better I feel. I'm not as stressed or anxious. But here's the thing. If information alone was enough, we'd all be successful at everything we had information about. The reality is we know a lot of stuff. We've got a lot of information about a lot of things. It doesn't help make us successful or stress-free or any of those things. That's because there's a missing component that has to be in the mix. Mindset. So let's talk for a moment about mindset. And let me give you a tool that you can quickly start using and immediately start seeing a shift in your life. What we think determines what we get. This 6 inches of real estate between your ears is the most powerful thing you have in your life, in your arsenal. But the thing is, most people use it not for good, but for evil. And what I mean by that is this. You often have two choices as to how to see something, anything. You can either choose to look at what's going wrong or what could go wrong, or you can choose to see what's going right or what could go right. Now, it's fascinating in our society that our default, our autopilot, is to immediately find everything that's going wrong, and then some. And over here, this is exhausting. This is exhausting, and it's negative. And did I mention it's exhausting? And guess what? It just breeds stress and anxiety and just not really good, happy feelings ever. So why is it our default? It's kind of interesting. One of the theories I have on it, as someone who was in the news industry for a number of years, before I ran screaming from the industry, after coming to my senses, was this. We are surrounded 24/7 these days with mass media. And there's a whole psychology to how information, via the news airwaves, is presented to you. It's all negatively bent. In a nutshell, if you're hearing it, there's a negative connotation to it, and you're pretty much only getting half the story because of that. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're watching a weather forecast. And the meteorologist says there's a 20% chance of rain tomorrow. Now, instantly, most people go into their head and their first thought is, oh, it's probably going to rain tomorrow. Now, let's push aside the whole idea that possibly raining tomorrow has no bearing or effect on your life unless you have 139 people coming over for a picnic in your backyard. Who cares if it's raining? The reality is you're going from your house to your car to a building to the car to a house. It's not a big deal to begin with, but sometimes that little thought can get people so riled up. Now, the other thing is, you've only gotten half the story, but you haven't wanted to look at the other half. Because the other half of the story that meteorologist is also telling you is that there's an 80% chance of sun. Why don't we choose to go there? For most people, that would make it really not a big deal, and you could move on with your life. You wouldn't get stuck in it might rain tomorrow. Who cares? That same meteorologist might say it's partly cloudy. He or she will never tell you it's partly sunny. There's a whole psychology to that. It's just wording. But those are the same things, and partly cloudy doesn't sound as good as partly sunny. The anchor at that desk is going to tell you there's a 10% unemployment rate today. Guess what? He or she will never tell you, today, we have 90% employment. I don't care what school system you're from in this country. I'm pretty sure that's still an A. The point is this. We hear information constantly. The challenge is we often only have half of the story. This applies not only to what someone else is telling you, but sometimes what we're telling ourselves. We're going to talk about self-talk in a couple of days. But for right now, here's a tip that I want you to experiment with. Going forward from this moment, every time you get information into your head, this only takes moments to do. Don't just think about what you've just been told, but also think about what you just weren't told. In other words, flip the switch. Take a moment, and it does literally just take a moment, to see the other side. Now, why this is so helpful and really, really powerful is because if our autopilot is to see what's going wrong, flipping the switch gives us a moment to also see what's going right. If we're in the middle of a challenge or some sort of problem, flipping the switch allows us to get a glimpse at the solution. It's pretty simple, and it takes a moment to do. It's kind of common sense, but it's not common practice. So put this into practice and see what happens. Experiment with it and see how much of a little shift it is that can have a huge impact.